KayFabe Smark Podcast. Welcome to the KayFabe Smark Podcast with Eric Todd and Brian Rampa, your smart mark source for news and opinions on the world of professional wrestling.
Hey, what is going on, everybody? This is October 14th. This is the KayFabe Smark Podcast. This is episode 73. We are going to sit down. We're going to talk wrestling, but make sure you guys get on over to all of our social media platforms. That's YouTube, that's Facebook, that's Instagram. Join us all over there. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Hit the bell. Get the notification when we go live. We record these podcasts live and streaming on YouTube. Also over on Facebook. Join us on there. And make sure you're following and suggesting to all your friends and sharing the podcast and doing everything else that comes with being a part of the crew. But let's get over to Eric Todd and see what's happening in his world, not in your world. Let's see what's happening in Eric Todd's world. Eric, what's going on, my man?
Oh, you know, same old, chilling here with the resident pit bull, Stella Marie. My son bought a motorcycle and got that bitch legally plated, insured, and everything, and took it on his first night ride yesterday. So I was cruising behind him in my Equinox and found out he had a first time driving at night, find out he ain't got no damn tail lights. So we had to work on that project today. It was luckily an easy peasy 3-minute fix. Popped a new fuse. The boy's got tail lights now.
Boy's got tail lights. People can see him coming. Hopefully he's going to wear a helmet. That's all that I ask out of life, is that people just throw the helmet on. I know we have a no helmet law here in Michigan. Not sure where you're listening at, but man, seems crazy to not ride with a helmet. But anyways, enough about that. Enough about the real world. We're going to talk some pro wrestling today, Eric. What did we watch this week instead of AEW? Because that shit was not on TV.
Yeah, that was a surprise to me. I woke up this morning, Thursday morning, and I figured I would check out Reddit Squared Circle and see if there was anything in particular I needed to see on Dynamite. And turns out there was a hockey game.
Yeah.
So no Dynamite. We chatted throughout the day, and we landed on that we're going to discuss NXT 2.0. And Brian, that was a mistake.
Oof. We should have just reviewed an old pay-per-view or something. But before we get into all that and talk about that nonsense, usually you've got a little bit of what we like to call the news. Do you have anything for us this week?
Yep. If you go ahead and slap that ticker, we can get right into it. We got a few stories to hit.
From around the world, here is Eric Todd with the KayFabe Smark News. Eric, what's going on in professional wrestling?
First things first, Brian, do you smell what The Rock is cooking?
Oh, I smell what The Rock is cooking. I smell he's putting boots to asses. He's doing it all with strange music.
Black and Samoan in his veins and rolling with strange and this, that, and the other. The Rock loves to excel at everything he does, and he put out his first official rap verse this week on October 9th. It was released. Tech 9 is the main artist on the track, along with King ISO and Joey Cool. Welcomed The Rock into the studio. Dwayne Johnson laid down a verse. The track is called Face Off, and it's on all the audio streaming software, everywhere you can look. And the shit, if you haven't heard it, it's blown up. Everyone on this track kills it. And The Rock, even though it's his first time rapping, I'd say he did a good job.
Oh, yeah. For, a wrestler, rapper, movie star, rapper doing his thing, it was nothing to be let down about. It was exactly what you should have expected from it. The question is who do you think is a bigger mark-out moment for this? The Rock doing a song with Tech, or Tech 9 doing a song with The Rock? Because we've watched Tech 9 on Twitter throughout the years try to be involved with The Rock and wrestling, trying to do his intro music, trying to sing him in at WrestleMania to be the MGK for John Cena. I'm thinking, this was a little two-way street here.
Yeah, it was a surprise. I remember a couple years ago, it was kind of just put out there that The Rock is a huge fan of Tech 9 and uses a lot of his music to work out to and get hyphy to. And so, yeah, I think this was a little two-way street and equal pulling there. And I think both of them kind of marked out when they met each other.
100%. Good times, lots of fun. You know, it's acceptable because The Rock didn't take himself seriously. He just went out and did a little thing and then moved on. He's not trying to walk around now with, you know, a iced out microphone around his neck and be the next rapper. He's just The Rock did a rap verse and that was it.
Right. And if you take what he raps as gospel, one take, Brian, that's all it took The Rock. One take.
One take Jake's what they call The Rock in the studio, but
yeah, I would love to see those outtakes.
Keep it kayfabe.
Yeah. Our boy Tony Khan, the owner of AEW, I think he's biting off a little more he can chew. WWE SmackDown tomorrow night, this Friday, will be doing an extended show, and they'll be running until 10:30 p.m., which means SmackDown and AEW Rampage will share a half an hour on TV, and they'll be going head-to-head. So Tony Khan decided to, I would say, kayfabe this up. He's got to be in character. Went to Twitter to acknowledge that and said and tweeted out, "I saw that you're doing a half hour head-to-head with us. I can't wait to finally beat your main show head-to-head. It's been a long time coming. See you next Friday for AEW Rampage on AEW on TNT."
Cool.
And so WWE fired back.
Oh, they did. I didn't expect to hear that. I just thought it was going to be a one-sided, like, what do you think WWE said? But yes, I missed this. What did they say?
Well, they didn't actually mention Tony Khan or AEW, but they kind of put it out there that the final 30 minutes of SmackDown will air commercial-free, and that's the half hour that will be going head-to-head Rampage, so no commercials. And WWE has already announced the majority of the card for SmackDown, which looks a little bit like this. We got Brock Lesnar appearing to address Roman Reigns. We're going to have Becky Lynch versus Sasha Banks in a non-title match. We're going to have a King of the Ring semifinal, Finn Balor versus Sami Zayn. A Queen's Crown semifinal, Carmella versus Zelina Vega. And Sonya Deville versus Naomi. Now, what they're going up against, Brian, which is why I said Tony Khan bit off a little more than he could chew. Tony Khan announced matches from Rampage airing this Friday, which will include CM Punk versus Matt Sydal. Ooh. Ruby Soho versus The Bunny. And Inner Circle versus Men of the Year and Junior Dos Santos.
That's about the only thing they have going for them, and is the end of their show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, Brian. If I happen to be watching TV at 10 o'clock tomorrow night, there's a better chance of me being on Fox than there is of TNT.
I thought you were going to say there's a better chance of me being on fire.
Actually, you're probably right. I think I'd rather do a Burning Man gimmick than watch this shit.
Oof. Yeah, that's, you know, well, while we're here and we're talking about it, CM Punk, very excited to see him come back, was excited to see what he was going to do. Why is he just being a mid-card guy on the Friday night show?
I mean, I understand he wants to bring in viewers, but who cares if he's wrestling Matt Sydal?
He wrestled.
Sydal's not gonna beat him,
right? And he wrestled. What was the guy he wrestled last week? The Jerry Garcia from 2.0 or whatever it was.
Why is he dropping down and
why is he not? Why is he not? Why is he not mentioned Christian Cage? Why is he not mentioned anybody from the Elite? Why has he not started any type of feud besides one-off challenges? Is he just getting the ring rust off, and this is how he's getting loose in the ring again?
Maybe it's just that indie blood in his veins. He just wants to come in and play with the young guys and have fun like he did way back in the day and bring these young guys up, not I guess maybe not do a hierarchy like it was in WWE, but it's not good TV. I don't care if he fights Jerry Garcia or Matt Sydal. I'd rather play PlayStation or
What? Yeah, why isn't he going after
well,
like Malachi Black or just? And there's some people that could be done. Cody Rhodes. It doesn't have to be titles, but it can be some names to draw. It's a tangent. It was a question. This could last the entire hour and a half that we're going to sit here and talk. So we shall move on. But that's something to chew on, people. What is CM Punk doing, and what are they doing with him? Hopefully, it turns around.
It's frustrating. I'm hoping it's ring rust, and then we can actually get some main event level matches out of CM Punk. I don't think everyone in Chicago busted a nut watching him come through the thing to watch him fight people on Monday night YouTube or whatever. So you remember the Iconics, Brian?
Yes.
That being Billy
Kay.
Kay, and I can't remember the girl's old wrestling name, but anyway, their new names are Cassie Lee and Jessie McKay, and they have signed to Impact Wrestling. So I was slightly disappointed because I don't watch Impact Wrestling. These two, I think, were one of the most entertaining female tag teams in WWE, and I was really anticipating seeing them on AEW. But lo and behold, they will be signing with Impact. They'll be making their debut at Bound for Glory on October 23rd, and I think they went with Big Fish, Small Pond on this one. They probably would have just got lost in the sauce over there in AEW. I think they can dominate the tag team division there in Impact.
Well, I mean, you signed to Impact, and don't you just have isn't the door open? Can't you just freely come and go between the two companies at some point? I mean, their Impact champion is it still Christian?
I believe so. And speaking of that, as I was scrolling through channels today, there was just said Impact Wrestling on my screen was airing live. Not a live show, but it was just airing. So I turned it on to see what I would run into, and it was Impact Wrestling with about 35 people in the stands. Kenny Omega was in a match, and Tony Schiavone was doing commentary. So it was confusing to say the least. But
yes.
The Iconics are in Impact now, and their new name is The Inspiration with 2 I's.
Inspiration, perspiration. 1 part inspiration, 2 parts perspiration. Anything else going on in the news?
Oh, Impact's tearing up the news.
Oh,
this week,
boy, Impact. We should have watched Impact.
It was announced during the Impact Wrestling Knockouts Knockdown event that Awesome Kong is now inducted into the Impact Hall of Fame. She will be the second woman inducted into the Impact Hall of Fame following her rival Gail Kim. So this was after Awesome Kong retired at NWA Empower.
Awesome Kong. I don't know. Okay, cool. I mean, she put in some work. She didn't have a good WWE run.
No, not at all. She won't be hoisting up any WWE Hall of Fame rings, I don't think.
No. She unfortunately came in and we got pregnant and left really quick, and that was a wrap on that.
And then finally, I got a couple stories left.
Oh.
There's going to be a book released. When is this boy coming out? Next month. And it's going to chronicle the journey of the WWE Championship. And part of the press release right here says, this deluxe oversized hardback book explores the history of the WWE Championship from Buddy Rogers in 1963 to the current WWE Championship held by Drew McIntyre. In its near 60-year history, the main WWE Championship has been held by over 50 superstars and had its name and design changed 13 times. I'm going to admit it, Brian. I haven't watched WWE in a while or really paid too much attention to it. I had to Google, wait, is Drew McIntyre the WWE champion?
Yeah, it's like I guess they started the publication of that during WrestleMania, I would guess. And then we've had a few title changes from there. We've got I don't know if they're counting the Universal stuff and Roman Reigns, and then you've also got now Big E as a champion. I don't know how it works with the brand splits and the 2 titles and everything in their little book, but yeah, Big E and Roman Reigns holding the championships currently.
And I knew Big E won, but that's just a test to how shaky and shady WWE can be sometimes. With Big E winning that championship, would you put it past WWE to just have Drew McIntyre take it off Big E within 2 or 3 weeks of him winning it?
No, hell, the same night.
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely had to Google that and just make sure. But yeah, that book should be interesting. It's probably gonna be like $100. I'll wait till it comes back in paperback.
Catch it at the Salvation Army for 50 cents.
Precisely. WWE Raw attendance numbers are getting worse and worse. In a report from WrestleTix on Twitter, Raw last Monday in San Francisco at the Chase Center only had an attendance of. Well, we'll play this game, Brian. Have you read this story?
Negative, my friend.
So the Chase Center in San Francisco can hold a crowd of 18,064 people. How many people showed up to Monday Night Raw last Monday?
Under 10.
Very much so. 4,031 people.
I was going to say
Monday Night Raw.
I was going to say 9,000. It was my real, like, under 10. 9 was my real number, but yeah, under 10. Wow. That's a stinkeroonie.
I just remember it just triggered a memory of me attempting to get tickets in the early 2000s to Raw, and every single show sold out within 10 minutes. And now 4,000 people in San Francisco. This isn't Buttlick, Iowa here. This is goddamn San Francisco.
Buttlick, Iowa, yeah. They should be able to. Did they give away some tickets to fill it up? Did they just turn everybody to the TV side so nobody was on hard camera side and crunch them all together?
Well, I did dig a little deeper. They prepped the show to hold 4,800 people. And out of those 4,031 tickets, only 35 of them were comped. So just under 4,000 people bought tickets. But yeah, that's pretty rough.
Wow. So do you think it's the product? Do you think it's the COVID world conditions? Do you think it's a little bit of both? Where's your brain at on it?
I think it's just the perfect storm. California is probably one of the strictest areas for mask mandates or proof of vaccination and all that. So you got that. WWE product has been rough, as you'll see by our review of NXT 2.0 tonight. And I don't know, man. I don't know if they're still charging an arm and a leg for tickets, but it's got to be a perfect storm.
Yeah, that sounds terrible. Like, I mean, I guess it'd be kind of a cool show to go to if you're like going to the show, right? Because then at least like you'd be like feel like you're really part of the show there. If only 4,000 people in the audience. Yeah,
and I'm looking here. Their highest draw since they came back to touring last July was 12,629 people when they were in Chicago. 12,000's chicken feed compared to what they used to do back in the day.
12,000's chicken feed. Chicken feed.
And then our final story in the news tonight. Ted DiBiase, Brian.
Oh, you know what? I saw this zoom past my my eyeballs on the old Twitter machine or the Facebook machine, something like that. One of them Google machines, and bingo bango. This sounds a little shady.
It's a little saucy. So if we've been doing this show for 73 weeks, we probably reported on this when it was first came up. But Ted DiBiase had his fingers in some shit over down there in Mississippi, and he was allowed to choose where all this money that was meant for poor people was supposed to go and what vendors to give it to and builders and whatnot. And they're auditing the shit out of it because apparently they suspected old Teddy of embezzling those funds. And there's been multiple audits, and they came back very much conclusive that the money was going to a whole bunch of people who didn't deliver on their contracts, just kind of pocketed the money. And this is to the tune of around $77 million that the state of Mississippi is expecting to get paid back. And I just pulled a couple key names off of this list of who owes what. But the Heart of David Ministries, which is controlled by $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, they're expecting Heart of David to pay back $722,000. They're expecting Ted's son Brett to pay back $225,000. And this one really peeled my wig back, Brian. Ted DiBiase Jr. of former WWE fame, he is expected to pay back $3.9 million.
Everybody's got a price.
What the hell
are the DiBiases doing?
Well, Ted Jr., I can't imagine everyone else on the list. There's multiple people on the list, and they're all in hundreds of thousands of dollars. Oh, was he just like stuffing his pockets and duffel bags as fast as he could? It was like, oh, they'll never catch me. $3.9 million that you took and didn't spend on anything. Well, I'm sure he spent it. But
oh, yeah. Not on anything appropriate or whatever he was supposed to be doing with that money and things he was supposed to be doing with it. Wow, kazowie. Virgil didn't get a pinch, huh?
No, Virgil wasn't on here apparently. I think he invested his share into Olive Garden breadsticks and
what about that
donating those to the poor.
What about that little kid he kicked the basketball out on Superstars in like 92? What happened to that kid? They give him anything?
Yeah, that kid started a homeless shelter with his share apparently. No. But yeah, that's insane. $77 million, $1 Million Man embezzled and gave to his friends and family.
Just gave it away. You know what I can do here is I can give it to you. Well, aren't I supposed to do something for it? Ah, shucks, you'll be fine.
I'm sure we'll be seeing Ted DiBiase Jr. on the Comic-Con road on every indie program he can think of to accumulate some funds.
I heard he's selling
in the poorhouse.
He's selling cameos for $3.9 million a hello.
Yeah, that's what you can do. You can just do one big cameo where pay me $3.9 million and I'll come to your house and I'll be your butler.
I'll cameo
dress
for
up like
you.
Virgil.
Wow. I knew that Ted had gotten into some trouble previously, but wasn't sure what it was all about. But yes, now it all comes to light. Stealing money, giving it away to friends, and he didn't call me that son of a bitch.
And my biggest pet peeve in the world, Brian, is hypocrisy. And there's a documentary on Ted DiBiase on Amazon or something, and he is just touting Christianity and religious and helping people. And I cheated on my wife, but I'm such a much a better man now. And then it just turns out he's just stealing millions of dollars from poor people. What a dick.
All well and good. Like, you got to hit bottom to find your top again. So maybe he did at one point, but then he just he got in his own way again and couldn't just help people. I can't imagine the DiBiase family was like hurting for money.
No, by no means. WWE had an open door policy with them.
So yeah, that sucks. What an asshole. And I hope he has to pay taxes on that as well. I hope IRS comes after him. Erwin R. Scheister's auditing him. His former tag team partner.
Bray Wyatt's dad. Don't forget that. But yeah, the $77 million included interest. But yeah, the DiBiases are dicks, and that's going to wrap it up for the news.
Taking it home. Where'd my news button go? There it is. All right. The DiBiases stealing millions of dollars. Awesome Kong in the Impact Hall of Fame. There you go. The Iconics went to Impact as well. This was an Impact-filled week. That's the news. And now, as you can see by the background there, it is time for what we like to call...
Let's play Overrated or Underrated with Eric Todd.
It is time to play Overrated, Underrated with Eric Todd. That is him. That is he. I am him. I am not him. All right, here we go. Overrated, underrated. Submission holds. Keeping it simple.
Nice.
Keeping it classy. Overrated, underrated. The camel clutch. Now, things to keep in mind when you're talking about submission holds. The actual physical effectiveness of it and the look on TV. Because it could be a really cool, like, painful submission hold. But let's be honest. We're selling a visual product here. If it looks like trash on TV and hurts, does it really do really well? Think about those things when you're answering these. The camel clutch, overrated, underrated. Go.
I mean, when you got Sheiky Baby putting it on, it's always going to be underrated. That thing, he wrenches down on it, he wrenches your head back, and he will humble you, you jabroni motherfucker. But it's one of those moves you and I pick apart when we see it nowadays. When we see Miro doing his version of it, and so on and so forth, your arms are locked onto your opponent's knees, and you just got to pull them forward, and then there's a lot of maneuver, and you can get out of there. So the effectiveness of it requires two-man cooperation. But man, I love it when Iron Sheik does that move, or did that move. I don't think he's really going to be able to pull it off nowadays, but I'm going to say overall that is an overrated move, the camel clutch, Brian, just because it's so simple to get out of if you wanted to.
Camel clutch, overrated by Mr. Eric Todd. Move number 2, overrated, underrated. The good old classic sleeper hold.
All right. Now, as a kid, as a teenager, I think every wrestling fan has been put in a sleeper hold and has put their friends in sleeper holds. And that is one effective move. And when you got professionals in the ring selling it just right and doing the arms up and the arms down, and is he gonna pass out and whatnot, the sleeper hold is definitely underrated because visually it's not fantastic, but you can just imagine just being knocked out by your favorite barber and mesh fishnet tights.
Yes, the sleeper hold was done right, sold and told a great story. Done wrong, it clearly, even as a young youth, I could see that this was just a rest hold.
Right. But kids nowadays see a sleeper hold and they just see it as a rest hold. But yeah, you know that motherfucker will knock you out if it's really cinched in.
So what are we, overrating it or underrating it? I'm sorry?
Underrated sleeper hold.
Underrated the sleeper hold. Overrated, underrated the STFU, or the STF as it later became known as by Mr. John Cena.
All right. So this move, it looks fantastic when it's done great. And the way John Cena can get into it is great. But there's so much opportunity to screw it up. You miss one part of the STFU or whatever the hell they call it nowadays, and it just looks like garbage. And the ways to get out of it are so just there for the taking. So I think it's a little too complicated and it has to be done perfectly to look good. So I think the STF is overrated.
Overrated. I remember listening to an interview with on Stone Cold's podcast, and he was talking to John Cena, and he said, "Come on, man, you got to cinch that thing up for me," because Cena's always been known to put the arms as they like lock around the head. You know, he locks the leg up, twists it up, and pulls the head back. And the guy's chin is just so loose. He like looks out, he looks up, he checks the time on his watch. He's answering the crowd yes or no, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, wait, my chin's locked into place here." So, the quickness that you can be put into it, the idea of it, but sometimes how it's really sold, trying to protect your guy's neck, is a little rough. Overrated, underrated, the good old classic figure 4 leg lock.
I was waiting for the figure 4. The figure 4 is my favorite submission move of all time because that's as real as it gets. That's another one we've all been put into, and we've all had our knees almost hyperextended from that bastard. And again, when it's done right by the right guy, a Ric Flair, so to speak, it's just amazing. And the selling that goes behind it, and the whole reversal process, and the anticipation is, can he roll over and reverse the pressure? It's the move overall is fantastic, and no matter how high you rate it, it's going to be underrated.
Yeah, man. That rollover is an amazing thing. That is super underrated, and a reversal for a submission hold. I remember getting it put on me, and you roll over, you go, then you roll over, and then your buddy's screaming that you're going to break his leg. So, like, technically, you are halfway in a submission hold yourself as long as they don't roll over. Yeah, that's a pretty underrated. I was always a fan of the figure 4 leg lock, especially the way you could sell it with the starting the twist and the woo. And then let's just talk about, you had to have blonde hair technically to use this thing, right? You got Greg Valentine, you got Ric Flair, you got Nature Boy Buddy Rogers, you've got who else had used this thing? It was all blonde, white-haired guys. It was crazy the way that happened, the way it just was handed down from generation to generation of old blondies. Last thing here, overrated, underrated, the chicken wing.
Oh, the cross-face chicken wing, made
Cross-face.
famous by the ex-presidential candidate Bob Backlund. Quick side note, Bob Backlund, when he came back in the blue panties and was at the late 90s or mid-90s, something like that.
Yeah.
I thought Bob Backlund was ancient, and I'm like, why are they having this old man come in here and act like he's going to win something? He ain't shit. He's 65 years old. Oh, Bobby Backlund was only like 40.
Well, because, like, we had been watching wrestling then at that point, right? Say, we'd have maybe been like 10, like 11, 12 years old, early teens. You've never seen him.
Right.
And then all of a sudden he just shows up and he wins the championship and then loses it to Diesel at a house show in New York and not on TV. And it was a very random career that he had out of nowhere when he came back, and his feud with Bret Hart and the submission match and Owen throwing in the towel or convincing his mom and dad to throw in the towel. The whole nine, right? Yeah, wacky Bob Backlund shit. But anyways, his chicken wing.
Anyway, the chicken wing, unfortunately, the chicken wing is not used. I don't remember seeing it any time recently. It's a terribly underrated move, because that move, another one, you cinch it in right, you sell it right, and that thing's putting you out. I love the crossface chicken wing, and I'm kind of saddened that it's gone by the wayside. Crossface chicken wing, definitely underrated.
Last guy in the current era of wrestling I seen use it, and this was a while ago, was Marty Scurll was using the chicken wing for a while. So he was rocking the chicken wing. The chicken wing is a dangerous move because it does not take two-man cooperation. If you can literally get your buddy in the chicken wing, you could crank back on that thing and rip his shoulder out. Like, just messing around. Like, you'd be like, oh, my God, there goes a shoulder. We've torn your rotator cuff just playing wrestling in the living room. And, yeah, that was one you did not need any cooperation for. But that's all I have for you. Overrated, underrated, submission holds. And now we're going to talk about NXT 2.0 slow.
Oh, boy, Brian. Again, so NXT 2.0 inspired me this week. Also, inspiration, Cassie Lee and Jessie McKay. The inspiration that came to me this week is I actually searched my Sling TV for Impact Wrestling, and I started recording new episodes of Impact Wrestling. Because if there's a time where we can't watch AEW, I am never watching this garbage again. This was the biggest pile of shit I've ever seen on national TV. Like, this isn't going to count indie videos I've seen on YouTube or anything like that. I'm talking national television that millions of people watch. This was a pile of steaming poop.
This was a snore fest. This was
literally during that Vanilla Ice Boxing Kids match. I was snoozing to losing, man. I was out for the count.
Well, you want to kick us off with how this thing got rolling? We can talk about it. We don't got to talk long about it, but we're just going to talk about it.
We're going to talk about it. And throughout this show, the question that kept popping into my head is, who is this show for? I can't figure it out. It's not for 18 to 45-year-olds, the key demographic or whatever. Anyone in that age range would just watch this thing with a look of awe on their face of it's just overly scripted, over drama, overacted, terribly scripted. It's just shit, for lack of a better adjective there. But anyway, this is my first time watching NXT since it's turned into 2.0, and we start things off with a kidnapping. Brian, we've got Escobar's crew, Phantasmo, Del Fuento or whatever, abducting Ashanti Adonis from Hit Row, and they just drag her into an SUV. This is before the show even starts, and they're out the gates.
Hooty hoo, it's time for a kidnapping, and no police were called the entire episode.
No.
Entire show.
No. Just go ahead and kidnap her right off the street, and then I figure that's a good segue to go right into Joe Gacy. He's going to take on Tommaso Ciampa, but not before going on a rant in the middle of the ring.
This guy.
I'm convinced that this is Vince McMahon, like, trying to stick it to the woke culture. You get one guy who's terribly woke and talking about this is the safe space, and he's going to represent for all his snowflakes. And this is definitely personal handiwork of Vince McMahon saying, we're going to put a
woke wrestler. It'll be good shit.
We're going to put the staple of a woke left winger in the ring, and we're going to make him so annoying, and we're going to kick his ass. And if you want to see Joe Gacy get his ass kicked, Tommaso Ciampa is a good opponent. Put him up against.
Yeah. For one, do you see Tommaso Ciampa losing to Joe Gacy, John Wayne's long-lost cousin? Do you see him losing to him on the opening match of NXT 2.0 on a random Tuesday night on an unsold match? No.
Absolutely not. The only thing that made me think maybe, Johnny Gacy could take this thing was it was a non-title match. It was just to put his fat ass in the tournament.
Yeah.
And
but to make this guy his heel character is to be so, it's weird way to make a heel character, and you can tell there's some, like, I agree with you, there's an underlying thing there that this is not a character he came up with and said, hey, this will be a good idea, I got a gimmick. They said, this is what you're gonna do. Back to the 90s when every little piece of every wrestler was a little bit of Vince McMahon, right? You had the narcissist Lex Luger, you had the $1 Million Man, you had all these little pieces of Vince's character, the IRS, who he hated. Right, this is like the stab at IRS. This is his little thing to be like a woke wrestler. So this guy's just gonna get beat up every week.
Right, and he's gonna be so annoying. And Vince probably has this underlying goal of, we're gonna make people think this is what the woke culture is all about. And so we'll take the terribleness of this character out of it for a millisecond here. This wasn't a terrible match. WWE definitely, as far as in-ring training and fundamentals in the ring, they've got it down pat. This guy's a little bit on the chubbier side. He's got the same body type as his uncle John Wayne, and and somehow, some way, this dude is wrestling in slacks and a button-down dress shirt, and I would say a good 80% of this match, he kept his shirt tucked in. Now, you still DJ. I used to be a DJ back in the day doing weddings and bars and whatnot, and I would have to dress up and wear button-down shirts. I couldn't get through a Jack and Coke without my shirt coming unbuttoned, and this sumbitch is wrestling the whole ass match.
Oh, yeah, he's definitely got that thing, like, That wasn't just a regular button-down shirt, right? He was in full costume. That thing was probably sewn into his pants. It was like a onesie.
And that was my thoughts exactly. The thing probably snapped between his legs, but about 3/4 through the match, the front of it popped out, and I was relieved.
I was relieved. That was all he cared about during the whole match. How's his shirt staying tucked in?
The commentators, Beth Phoenix, Wade Barrett, and that other dick, they were just unbearable throughout this thing. They had to have said the phrase safe space 97 times. Oh, this isn't a safe space for Gacy here. Uh-oh, Ciampa's in trouble. This isn't his safe space. I was about to lose my mind that they just kept drilling in all these key words, woke and safe space, and this is for his snowflakes. And the commentary on this thing was absolutely terrible.
It kept seeming to me that all night long, and we can kind of talk about it more as we move on, the commentators kind of were, quote, if I can steal a quote from X-Pac here, going into work for themselves. And they were separating their commentary from the wrestling itself. They were just talking in sound bites. It almost seemed like just to get their sound bite highlighted and to thrown onto a TikTok video or something.
Yeah, that's a very good point you point out there. They were all in competition, almost, so to speak, of let's see who can go viral. But
it's kind of the vibe.
Tommaso Ciampa ends up winning, and there's an afterbirth to this match, Brian. I don't know what this guy's name is. Some fat, bald, Caillou-looking motherfucker is sitting in the audience, and I call him Luther Jr. because his age lines up and his fat, bald head and no beard line up. He's got to be the offspring of that douchebag over in AEW, Luther. He pops in and he attacks Tommaso Ciampa. Joe Gacy makes the save and strokes this guy's cheek. Apparently his gimmick is he's some psycho or something, and the guy scatters off, and that's the end of this segment. Very weird. I don't know what Luther Jr.'s place was in this thing. I don't know. Did you get it?
No. Just okay. Introduction of a new character, I'm assuming, or somebody that's been teased out earlier. We haven't been definitely haven't been keeping up on our NXT watching, but so either they've been teasing this guy's debut and that's his debut, or he just debuted. But that's all I got from it.
Yeah, and we already have Dexter Lumis, so I don't know why this guy's trying to piggyback off of his gimmick, but that's what it seems like's happening. We got a new faction, a new women's faction in NXT 2.0. This is the creation of Mandy Rose. Her new faction is called Toxic Attraction, and they're in the ring cutting promos about how they're going to get the various women's belts and whatnot. And I had to look this girl up, but the girl with a flannel around her waist, apparently her name is JC Jane. And you can't tell me, Brian, that the producers of NXT aren't watching AEW, because this JC Jane is a complete botched carbon copy of Britt Baker.
Yeah.
I'm talking multiplicity copy of a copy of a copy.
The dumb one.
Generation copy of Britt Baker. Her look,
flannel,
her makeup, the flannel, the cadence of her speech, her entire attitude was, I've watched Britt Baker tapes and I'm copying it piece for piece. It was just no shame, just absolutely horrid.
Yeah. This Mandy Rose thing is, I like Mandy Rose. I liked her in the main roster, a year or so ago. Was doing good work. I was happy to see her come back. This is like what they call it in TNA back in the day, the Beautiful People or something, with the Sky
Right.
and the other one, and
Velvet Sky.
And Billy Gunn was in it for a hot second and everything. Just the knockoff version of the Mean Girls, the It Girls, the Hot Girls, the doing their thing. So I don't know. They didn't do anything bad yet, but yes, they are jacking on Britt Baker's style there for sure.
And our next match on this card here is we got this fella Zion Quinn, and he's taking on Malik Blade.
So this is where NXT is. This is, I think, a good spot to shove this in here. They are either gimmicked to the T. I mean, just gimmick, right? Dexter Lumis, some weird guy that you got to pet his face, and the overdone left-wing woke guy. All gimmick. Or, what was this guy's name, this first guy that you just mentioned?
Talking about Malik Blade?
No, the other guy.
Oh, Zion Quinn.
Yeah, Zion Quinn. Both of them, to be honest with you. Or you've got guys that look like they should just be MMA fighters. Like legit badasses. You're going, well, which way are we going here? Because we're kind of at this weird gray area fork in the road of making a decision. Are we going to be gimmick comic books, or are we going to be like the reality style of wrestling? So where are we going with this? Because really what that happens is the two don't mix. They mix like oil and water. So now when you put Dexter Lumis in with, Malik Blade or the other guy that you just said there, it gets watered down and gets lost. It doesn't make sense. The stories don't add up. So that's what I've been noticing with this NXT 2.0. We've got a lot of very gimmicky, and then we've got really people with no gimmick that are just basically former retired potential badasses.
Right. And this was the epitome of this being a developmental territory again. Zion Quinn, he's not comfortable in his own skin. He's just overacting everything he does, and he's got this weird, almost like a ninja gimmick thing he's doing. Malik Blade, he's kind of slim, but he's muscular, but they put him next to this guy, Zion, who's built like a brick shit house, and turns out Malik Blade looks like a fucking string bean. This match absolutely should not have been on TV. It was just awkward, uncomfortable. It should have been a squash match for this Zion Quinn to win, but they did give Malik Blade a little offense. Once you've seen him on offense, he's not as only as skinny as a string bean, he's also as green as a string bean.
Sting bean.
Sting bean. And Zion Quinn has this weird thing where he's pumping up his forearm and he's showing the audience that he's going to hit this guy with a forearm, and that's his finishing move, Brian. Forearm across the face. And Beth Phoenix lost her shit that like this was the most devastating finishing move she's ever seen, and I was just appalled at this match.
Yeah, the other problem that I'm seeing is that Vince has made it very clear that he does not want professional wrestlers anymore, right? Independent style wrestlers. He's not chasing, he's making professional wrestlers. He's not signing professional wrestlers, if you will. With that being said, it shows.
Yeah, this was definitely an OVW match, an FCW match that should have been shown to a local audience. And that's about it. But as far as this being a televised match that people are supposed to tune in to see, it absolutely was not.
Yeah, it popped the same sentence. We'll have the same conversation again during a tag team match. But anything else you want to talk about during this match?
No.
All right, cool. Who won? Oh, yeah, the other guy, Zion.
Yeah, Zion. Yeah, forearm boy.
Forearm to the face, that's right.
So Swerve Scott, he's in the back, and he is fired up about that kidnapping. Swerve Scott, of course, part of Hit Row, and one of his teammates was kidnapped by Fantasma del Fuego or whatever. And Swerve Scott, God bless his soul, the guy can wrestle. He'd probably be more comfortable over in AEW with his style, but they're force feeding him this script, and he is just trying his damnedest, but he is just a shitty actor. Let's just call it that. You can tell the words aren't his, and he's just trying his best, and he just looks like shit trying to fulfill the script, and it's all just screams developmental.
These guys get beat up on, the wrestlers get beat up on for delivering these lines bad, and I understand. I give them the benefit of the doubt that they're handed these things, told to memorize them essentially in minimal amount of time, and go out and deliver them, quote, live on TV. I don't think NXT 2.0 is being aired live. I'm not thinking so, but nonetheless, even if it wasn't, this was a backstage promo. These things, that's what bugs me too, is that it wasn't good. So, like, was that the best they got? They couldn't have pre-taped any of this? We just spent a whole COVID era pre-taping everything and making everything perfect, and now we're just going back to raw and uncut. Just, hey, say this, cool, let's move on. Like,
and just scream it. That way it comes off more real, Swerve. Just scream it because you're so mad.
So mad.
Ugh. All right, our next match on here, it's a women's match, Brian, but it's in the top contendership for best match of the night. And this would be the debut of Ivy Nile, and she is taking on Valentina Feroz. And this match was just explosive, just boom, 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 every second of the match. The match only lasted about 2 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
You can tell Ivy Nile's green, but she has the look, she has the athleticism, she has the power, she has potential. And this was a short but sweet match. Ivy Nile ends up winning with a modified torture rack.
Yeah, this match was good because it was short, I think, because it was packed in tight. The it was all definitely, it was Ivy Nile, we said that was the girl who won, right? I'm sorry.
Right.
There's new people to me, so I'm rediscovering these new NXT stars over the last couple weeks. She looked, I want to say she looks short, but she's just strong, solid. She's picking people up, showing off power. It was all her, all offense the entire time. But there was no room for mistakes when you pack it in 2 minutes. Get out there, do your stuff, squash the other poor girl, and move on with life. And that's exactly what they did.
And yeah, that's why I said it was a great match. They didn't leave any room to fuck things up. It was just, here's your moves, get them done, get in, get out, and they did their job. So there's a belt that I didn't know existed, Brian. Apparently there's an NXT Cruiserweight belt now.
Oh, yeah, the purple one.
This thing's been in the hands of a couple people, so I guess I haven't been paying too much attention, but apparently Roderick Strong is the current NXT Cruiserweight champion.
Yeah, what's his name just had it? Back to the Future boy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I forget his name.
He had a run in at the end. Go ahead.
Yeah, we'll get to that here in a moment. But let's see here. I'm trying to find out the name of that gimmick. Oh, the Diamond Mine. Okay, so
oh yeah, these
Roderick Strong is part of this faction called the Diamond Mine, and I think Ivy Nile's in that faction too. And so Roderick Strong and the Diamond Mine are out there cutting promos, and this shit is just so random. Out of nowhere, you just hear uppity, happy K-pop music, and out comes this Funaki-looking bastard with orange hair named Jiro, and Jiro is just coming out and acting like a goof, and he's wearing panties and a suit jacket, and he just hops in the ring and hits one of the Diamond Mine guys and gets back out of the ring, and that's that. We go to commercial. Nobody chased him down.
Nope.
And
all they said going off air into commercial was, it looks like Gyro wants a match tonight or at Halloween Havoc in the future. When does he want this match? Oh, right now.
Yeah, the anticipation was killing me, Brian, because we went to commercial and we come back and an impromptu match was signed right on the spot. This is Tony Khan style right here. We've got Jiro, the K-pop Asian man with orange hair, and he is taking on this lanky and awkward fella named Julius Reed from the Diamond Mine. And
this was another crossover of like wacky characters, overproduced gimmicks versus reality style wrestling that just did not gel well.
Precisely. We've got Jiro, who his gimmick, Brian, his whole shtick, he is on the Orange Cassidy level right here. His shtick is that he wrestles in a suit jacket, and he does little goofy gymnastic tricks on the turnbuckles, and he'll open his suit jacket and shake it around, and on the other end of the spectrum here, and they're probably both on the spectrum, to be honest with you. We've got Creed over here, who just looks like some guy. He just looks like Steve from down the street who borrowed your lawnmower last week, and he just came out of the house in his panties to get the newspaper.
Out in the BVDs in a robe to go get the newspaper.
Creed ends up winning this match, and the entire Diamond Mine, for some reason, even though he beat this Jiro fella in a suit jacket, the whole Diamond Mine decide to jump Jiro afterwards, and I couldn't figure out what the point of that was. And then, lo and behold, the whole point of them jumping Jiro here was so that Kushida could come in and make his appearance, because he hasn't been seen since he dropped that cruiserweight title.
Old Roderick. Yeah, so that was that. That was the whole point of this whole thing, evidently, was that him and Kushida are friends, or he's going to save him. And now there's going to be I bet you there's a tag team match next week or at Halloween Havoc.
There has to be.
There has to be. And it'll bore you to death. But nonetheless, anything else to talk about in this one? This was a stinkeroonie. I did not like this match at all.
No, I don't get this Jiro guy. The crowd absolutely loved him. So I'm thinking
we're the minority.
Yeah, we're definitely the minority. Everyone's on the Kenny Omega train with just the wacky Asian characters here, and the more you scream, the more you act like a goofball, the more over you are nowadays. But whether it's over or not, Jiro just doesn't fit into what this current NXT product is.
Or maybe he does. Maybe the Diamond Mine doesn't fit.
Yeah, that's a very big possibility. And next, we had some potential here in this next match, Brian. It piqued my interest a little bit.
Yes.
We had...
you don't even have to say, I don't have a timeline. Eric's got running the timeline tonight. I know, and by just what he said, I know what match we're on. We're on the tag team match.
We are on the tag team match. We've got our boy Kyle O'Reilly sticking it out. Even after Adam Cole dipset and went to AEW, Kylo's taken over, and he's got his buddy Von Wagner, Von Wagner, the look of this guy, Brian, he is not visually appealing. He looks like Ozzy Osbourne in 1977. Just like he's done 16 ounces of coke and fucking drank himself into oblivion. But Kylo and Von Wagner are taking on Pete Dunne and Ridge Holland, and we announced this match, Brian. We announced this match and we go to commercial, and my interest is piqued, and I've got my soda pop and I'm ready to watch this match. We come back from break, Brian. We don't get the tag team match. We get a whole ass episode of lashing out with Lash Legend, who is Wendy Williams on crack, which I think Wendy Williams already on crack, but
bold
Lash
statement.
Legend, Lash Legend was huffing paint thinner at the same time. She is off her fucking rocker, bro. This audience is just, it's a parody of an audience. If this thing isn't parody, if they were going for a real production of a real talk show style show, this thing was a fucking nightmare. You got Lash Legend making a joke about the WWE Squid Game, which I don't know what the joke was supposed to mean. I believe it was just because Squid Game is what people are talking about these days, so they just felt like they had to throw a keyword in there. We've got terrible humor. The crowd is just obnoxiously fake. And watching this thing, the look of disgust on my face during this whole segment was just uncanny. Did you watch this thing?
I caught a piece of some of it. I'll be honest with you. I was fast forwarding, and when I stopped, it was a kind of halfway in the middle of it, and then I wasn't going back to figure it out because I was already confused, and it was a wackadoodle. But yeah, it's just again, we go back to the same conversation we've had 10 times tonight. gimmicks, 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 gimmicks. Give everybody a gimmick. And then when they get good at the gimmick, we'll take them up to the main roster, and we'll change the gimmick. Because that is what we will do.
This new product, this NXT 2.0, is not a wrestling show. It's a variety hour, I think would probably be the best description of it, because you've got kidnappings, you've got talk shows, you've got K-pop concerts. This thing is just all over the place. And I will raise the question, who are they playing to? What audience are they playing this show to?
I think every audience is what they were going for. They're trying to please everybody and hitting nobody.
Yeah, precisely. A jack of all trades is also a jack of no trades. We finally get our match that I was anticipating here. We've got Kyle O'Reilly, Von Wagner, Petey Dunne, and Rich Holland. And when Kylo and Pete Dunne get into the ring together, their chemistry is unmatched.
That's money.
They have fantastic chemistry. This thing I am into. This is the best segment of the show when we got Kylo and Pete in the ring together.
Yeah, that was who drew me in. That's what I came for, and it's the only reason I stayed as well. Rich Holland is good. He's got his style, and he's figuring it out. He's finally not hurt and everything else. Now, what was that other guy's name again? Is eluding me real quick.
Von Wagner.
Wagner.
They did a good job of keeping him out of the ring, is one thing I noticed.
They were doing their best, but when he was in the ring, it was all, where's my mark? What's my cue? How do I get there? When do I do this? This is what I do. I'm not selling because I'm doing what I have to get ready for my next thing to do. So there was no, here's point A, here's point Z, and there's a point, a lot of stuff that has to happen in between of this. And he was forgetting all of the stuff in between that makes it interesting. He got to utilize big man power and throw lots of kicks and use that type of wrestling, but that's only going to get you so far. And he's not necessarily the natural big guy. This looks like a guy that got cut from the football team. They snagged him up after college, didn't make the pros, and they're teaching him how to kick and take some bumps.
Yeah, and on the KayFabe Smark, we call that green as pig shit. And this is another example of a guy who's not ready for TV. I don't know what his past is, why he got a free pass to be in a match with Kylo and Pete Dunne. But yeah, this Von Wagner guy, you hit the nail right on the head. He couldn't sell. He couldn't emote. He couldn't put out any emotions during this match because he just had to focus on getting on his mark and doing the next spot.
That was it.
Ridge Holland is, I haven't really paid attention to Ridge Holland since he got hurt back in the day. He's the guy who used to walk around in the flasher jacket, and he would just wear a trench coat and panties to the ring and look like he was on his way to an elementary school. And but this guy, they kind of turned him around. They put him in some stylish panties and knee pads. He's definitely got power. He's figuring shit out, just like you said.
He's hanging out with Pete Dunne, so that's a good move.
That is definitely a good move, but it'll be short-lived because what are they doing with Ridge Holland? What are they doing with Ridge Holland, who is finally finding his niche in NXT? They're going to yank him out of NXT and put him on SmackDown. And to put a guy who's still developing but still has potential, to put him on your highest show with the highest audience and your biggest stars, it's a death sentence. Yeah. Ridge Holland is going to go from relatively big fish, small pond to non-existent. To who precisely?
Do you remember that guy? He had a few good things going on. Yeah. This sucks for him, I think. I think he's going to get lost in the proverbial sauce, as we like to say here on the KayFabe Smark podcast. He's going to get buried, not even in a go like Triple H is going to bury him. He's just literally going to get buried, just get lost, and nobody's going to remember him. He's going to be doing opening segments. He'll be working main event, if that's still a thing that warms up the crowd, and they put it out on the Peacock network. But This match, though, again, the only thing that held back to the match, the only thing that held it together was Pete Dunne, Kyle O'Reilly, when they could get in the match and control this thing.
Right, precisely. And then for some reason, again, this is ADD booking. I think they've got 53 writers writing one match, and they're all just drawing spots and finishes out of a hat. Because, like you said, the glue to this match was Pete Dunne and Kylo, and for some reason, the ending of this match, Brian, was a hot tag to Von Wagner. He gets in, he cleans house. He's got the Kenny Omega happy feet going because he doesn't know what to do with his feet and he doesn't know where he's supposed to be. And he beats up everybody in about 15 seconds and gets the pin for the win.
Woohoo! I had high hopes for this. It ended in, well, pain.
Yeah, the guy, he's the worst thing in this match. He's barely involved in the match, and then he just comes in, cleans house, and gets the pin. It just makes no sense. This show does not belong on TV. We got another corny segment coming up, another Variety Hour SNL skit here. We've got this fella, Andre Chase, and apparently he's got his own college.
Oh, boy. This looked miserable. I'm going to be honest with you. I kind of tapped through this, so talk me through this nonsense because it looked like the drizzling shits.
I watched it twice because I didn't catch his name the first time, so I had to go back and actually get his name here. But Andre Chase from Chase University, and the acting in the skit might as well have been at Brazzers University because this is the worst acting I have seen. Oh, this is terrible.
Brazzers University.
This shit is absolutely mind-numbing. You've just got Andre Chase in there berating his students, and I don't know, again, who are they playing to? The point of this sketch was just to have him scream fuck over and over and for them to bleep it out of, oh my goodness, this guy's a loose cannon. Just hot garbage.
Yeah, this thing was some bad soap opera acting, and I couldn't even get behind it. It was giving me the douche chills of sorts, and again, this is when it really clicked in my head, though. I've been speaking about it the whole time we've been talking about this show, but it really clicked in my head going, they are just gimmicked to the T, man. Gimmicked. And I got this guy leading a fake college. And he's just like a loose cannon type guy, but he's the leader or the professor at a college. It just was like, what are we watching?
Is this supposed to be the new Dean Douglas?
Yeah, because that worked out well.
Yeah, that was a great gimmick. It went really far in WWE.
Yeah.
And NXT doesn't take the foot off the gas in the gimmicky horse shit, Brian. The Deuce Pimples, they're still raised. They haven't even receded yet. And we go right into another cheesy SNL skit. We've got this Tony Soprano ripoff, Dickhead D'Angelo, I believe his name is. And Dickhead D'Angelo is leaned up against a Mercedes C-Class, and he's doing his best to sound like Tony Soprano and tell mob stories and whatnot. And apparently, Dickhead D'Angelo was booked on the Lash Legends show that we watched previous, where she just rants and raves about Squid Game, and he was bumped from the show, Brian. Oh. And do you know what happens when you bump Dickhead D'Angelo from the Lash Legends show?
Couldn't even imagine, Eric.
Dickhead D'Angelo won't even tell you. He just says this producer, I think his name was, I don't know, we'll call him Ron for the sake of argument here. Ron's a nice guy. And then he walks off camera, and all of a sudden the Mercedes starts shaking, and there's thumping, and they're screaming, hey, let me out of here. Oh my goodness, trunk. Brian. Dickhead D'Angelo stuffed the producer in the trunk. What will it be next? Well, I can't get enough.
I mean, just human trafficking. There's kidnapping. There's mob hits. There's a lot of stuff happening here on NXT, and yet, they have a serial killer named Dexter Loomis who wanders around and threatens to cut you with a knife if you don't not say anything at his wedding. I mean, for the love of God, man, there is just nonsense going on NXT, and yet nobody bats an eye.
It's a variety hour. That's the only way I can put
Yeah,
it.
da 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 da. Welcome to NXT. Yeah, da 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 da.
We need Dinner Debonair to pop off, and that would be the highlight of this show. Next on our agenda here, we've got Duke Hudson taking on Grayson Waller. Grayson Waller looking as vanilla icy as he can right here. Does a pre-tape. Apparently he's a Golden Gloves boxer, and he's boxed with the best of them over there in the UK and or Australia, whatever the fuck, I don't know. And these guys wrestled.
Yeah, you go. Yeah, and well, shit, these guys wrestled. This is another one of not an over gimmicked character, but his character is being a badass. It's just that's the two things we have in NXT right now. You've got a paper boy, and you've got the mutilation monster that's going to come out and kill you and tie you into knots. It just, none of it is just consistent. And these guys, but this guy, these two gentlemen did not have the it factor of thinking that, oh man, I'd hate to run into them, right? Brock Lesnar, certified badass, right? We'll just pick him out. You look at him and go, fuck, he'll smash your skull. These guys I looked at and went, man, what are you going to do?
Right.
Look like douchebags at the bar that would try to pick up your chick while you're with them.
And we find that out later in the show. Grayson Waller's whole gimmick is he's teaching Cameron Grimes how to use Tinder. Like that's a thing. That's a subject matter for this variety hour. This match was what it was. Nothing special. I tried my best to pay attention to it, and before I knew it, old Hudson had Grayson Waller in a roll up with a handful of tights for the 1, 2, 3.
Cool. Yeah, this was a stink fest too. There was a couple, there were some matches that looked like WrestleMania caliber matches compared to some of the lows on this card.
This thing was rough. We go right into, we've got a close-in shot of Dexter Lumis. No expression on his face. As you stated earlier, he is the serial killer of the show. And Indy Hartwell and him are married, is what I'm getting from this.
Yeah, they had a wedding a few weeks ago.
Indy Hartwell is completely obsessed with him and gives him a big sloppy kiss on the cheek with a string of spit hanging off her lip there. And if they were really trying to push their marriage, why don't she kiss that ugly motherfucker right on the lips? That's what I was wondering.
COVID.
I guess so, even between husband and wife, right, Brian?
Right.
And this leads us into a female tag team match here. We've got Indy Hartwell and Persia Piranha taking on Amari Miller and Saray. And I'm be honest with you, Brian, I tried to fast forward this thing, but as I was fast forwarding, you got the fast forward screen down at the bottom moving at hyper speed, and you've got the real deal still playing on the screen. The thing was over before I could get done with the fast forward button. Indy Hartwell ended up getting the pin.
Yeah, all right. You probably watched more of it than I did, so hey, cool.
And then after that, there was a whole afterbirth with that Britt Baker ripoff.
Oh yeah,
and
the Beautiful People came out.
Yeah, the Beautiful People, and who's not the one with the tank, but the other, not Shotzi Blackheart, but who's the girl who jumps off everything? That
Io Shirai.
Yeah, Io Shirai came out, and she was screaming. And what it appears they're doing with Io Shirai is they're just recycling I am terrible tonight. Who's the girl who screams all the time on the main roster who's had the belt a few times? Japanese girl.
Oh, Asuka.
Yeah. Turns out that they're just recycling the Asuka gimmick, and they've just got a screaming Asian woman coming out, and that's her gimmick. She just comes out and screams. and she doesn't like anybody, and it's a wrap on that.
What they needed to do in NXT 2.0 is they needed to take and get rid of everybody and throw them on the main rosters, because that's what we're going to have to call it now. I was always against calling it the main roster and NXT and the moving this, because NXT was its own roster. There were guys that went back to it. Finn Balor went down there happily.
Perfect example, yeah.
And from sounds of it, kind of begrudgingly went back to the, quote, main roster. So, but now that's what this was 100% going to be. There's NXT, then there's the main shows. You know, that's the way it's going to be. That's the way they've made it. That's the way the flag they've stuck in the ground with the way that this new 2.0 is being produced. So what they needed to do is yank everybody out of NXT, throw them on the main rosters, divvy them up between the two shows, and just introduce a whole new cast of characters.
Precisely. Make it a real-life 2.0. This is version 2.0. We're completely out with the old and with the new, and it's sink or swim for the top-level talent that was in NXT. When you purge them to the main roster, sink or swim, guys. You've been treading water in NXT for way too long. Just start completely fresh with this NXT product.
Yeah, we got a guy in the chat here on our YouTube channel watching us stream live. His name is Jack Diavani, it looks like. Divini. My apologies on slaughtering the name there, Jack. But nonetheless, he pops in with a question, or a comment, actually, that just says they need to reduce the promo time and get right to fighting.
You know, there was a lot of promos going on in this show, and they were, as I stated before, they were all overacted, overscripted, and just absolute hot garbage. So yeah, I couldn't agree more, Jack. Get rid of this dog shit promos.
Yeah, man, the promos, the overproduced segments then followed by bad wrestling. So you have overproduced segments followed by underproduced wrestling. Those two things were not mixing well together. So I couldn't, again, as Eric said, we could not agree more there, Mr. Jack. So keep the comments, keep the questions coming. Make sure you guys follow us at YouTube. Hit the bell, follow, notifications, see when we go live. We do this on Thursday nights. Join us on Facebook. We stream it over there as well. TikTok, Instagram, the KayFabe Smark. Join us on all of that. And then we continue on with NXT.
And we have got our main event right here, Brian. And our main event is for the North American Championship. We've got the current champion, Isaiah Swerve Scott, being challenged by Santos Escobar of La Fantasma fame here. And the first thing that popped into my mind is when you and I were watching NXT on a regular basis, Swerve Scott versus Santos Escobar was smack dab in the middle of the card, maybe right around the 8:45, 9 o'clock hour. Now it's a main event.
Now we had Tommaso Ciampa, who is the NXT champion, open the show against Gacy. Now you have this closing this, but here's the little swerve to this. See what I did there? Swerve?
Yeah.
That Swerve and the Hit Row have been drafted to SmackDown. So this is a fight to keep the North American title on NXT. Otherwise, it's leaving. So you've got Santos, you've got Santa Claus Escobar, who is the human version of styrofoam flavored ice cream, taking on Swerve Scott for this North American Championship. And we're off to the races. Will this belt leave NXT?
Swerve on a mission to take this belt over to SmackDown. And I'm not going to lie, Brian, this back in the day, this was mid-card on NXT, but after the shit we have endured tonight, this was an elite match. This was main event level compared to what we've watched earlier. Speaking of elite, we get a little AEW inspiration here. Swerve Scott jumping the gun before the belt, attacking Escobar outside the ring. And again, true AEW fashion here, even though we're watching NXT. Escobar gets his ass beat. He gets his head rammed into the steel steps. But all you got to do is roll him into the ring. And the match just ding, ding, ding. It's an official start to the match.
Yeah, that old pre-jump the gun thing is a little long in the tooth, so I'm done with that as much as I am with people diving over the top rope.
Right. Why not just bring a goddamn hockey stick or a baseball bat and crack your opponent over the head before the match, roll them into the ring, start the match, and get the win? Seems to make a lot more sense to me.
Yeah, beat them up and go for the pin, but they never do. They line them up in the corner and then put on a real match with rules.
Right. And soon as this match starts, Swerve Scott got to get his shit in. Mr. Get Your Shit In. He's already flipping over the ropes. That was the first or second move of this match, was him doing a backflip over the ropes. And right then and there, I'm like, we know what we're getting from this match.
Yeah, you've got me hearing Pitbull in his head. Mr. Steal Your Girl. You got Mr. Flipping Over the Ropes, whatever you just called him.
But luckily, even though Swerve started out with the indie-rific Cirque du Soleil bullshit right off the bat, he slowed it down for a bit because that's not exactly Escobar's style. And these two, they worked well together. I want to say they've worked together before, and they put on a decent match. These two have actually paid attention to their training. They know how to sell. They know how to work with each other's styles. And again, the commentary here, Beth Phoenix, just made me throw up in my mouth, because at one point in this match, Nas Escobar here, goes up for a frog splash. And this frog splash, Brian, is absolutely hideous. His legs are flailing. His feet hit the ground before he does. And Beth Phoenix describes this frog splash as an homage to Eddie Guerrero, and it was perfection.
Right.
Brian.
Now, here's what doesn't have to happen, though. She doesn't have to bury the move, right?
No, not at all.
But you can just move past it. You don't have to go, oh, that was shit, and then, or you don't, but you also don't have to put it over. You just got to go, meh, okay, next. And this is where I said they were going in to work for themselves and speaking in sound bites. So that way the move might have sucked, the moment might have sucked, but the commentary was on point, so we can clip that.
Right. That seems like exactly what they're going for. When in reality, it should have been, look at the height on Escobar's frog splash and move on from there. But this thing was perfection, and you got to name drop Eddie Guerrero. It's all over scripted, overdone.
Eric, before we move on, our good friend Jack here is really just trying to join. He has joined, not really trying, he has joined the KayFabe Smark clique here, and boy, he hates everything about this shit. So his comment now says, offering brawls must be kept to a minimum unless camera angles are good and they use weapons. They cannot make punches, kicks, and noises outside of the ring. This is a deal breaker for me. I mean, he summed it up right there, Jack. I mean,
Jack, we're putting a third window here for you, bud.
We'll get you on the show, Jack. Hit me in the DMs on Instagram. You can come on and chat with us sometime. Head on over to the KayFabe Smark on Instagram. Hit me in the DMs. You can join us.
Yeah, if you hate this shit, you'll fit right in. Swerve Scott, for being a Cirque du Bullshit performer, I don't really have too much against Swerve. We've watched him debut in NXT. We've watched him grow. We've watched him polish himself up a bit. So I expected a little more out of Swerve, seeing him this far into his career. But we see Swerve hopping up on the top rope. He's hitting a 450 splash. He ends up coming down on Escobar's knees here. But if you just pay a tad attention, if Escobar didn't raise his knees, Swerve was laying this 450 splash right across his shins. It's the most basic part of wrestling, is knowing your mark and knowing where to be. I don't know if Escobar didn't want to shimmy onto his mark or if Swerve came off the wrong foot, but boy, we went from an ugly frog splash from Escobar to an ugly 450 from Swerve.
Yeah, the only thing they got going for is that he saved it by, Escobar pulling his knees up into the chest, right, and trying to dive and pull it like he meant for all this to happen. But yeah, they were just, I think it was a lot of rushing in this match is what I got from it. It looked like they just need to slow down. Slow down. figure it out. Get in the groove. Figure out what's happening. This was high spot, dive spot, clip it out. Let's get some TikTok wrestling going.
Yeah. I think probably a lot of that was Swerve. You got AKA Dreadlock Buck doing his best Matt and Nick
and
Jackson
Dreadlock
impression
Buck.
there. Oh, Dread Buck trying to move this match as fast as possible here. And then just the unnecessary complications happen again. And this just seems to be a theme in the show that I've watched here. We got Carmelo Hayes and his buddy come out. We've got a couple guys from Phantasma coming out, and there is no reason for this. They don't interfere in the match. They don't distract anybody worth anything. They just come out and fight each other, Carmelo and Phantasma. And then all of a sudden, the commentators, again, speaking in sound bites, are trying to make it seem like that had an outcome in the match. And we're taking it home at this point. Swerve Scott ends up hitting his finish on Escobar for the win. And that's it, Brian. The North American title is going to SmackDown as far as we know at this point.
That's it, man. SmackDown's got a new title, for the love of Pete. That's all they
Not so fast, because in true NXT fashion, there's got to be an afterbirth. Carmelo Hayes, the commentators really lay it in there that he's buddy with Hit Row, so he's going to get in there, and obviously he's going to go in there and congratulate Swerve Scott. Instead, he lays Swerve on his ass, blasts him, and guess what he's got behind his back, Brian? He's got his contract for his North American Championship opportunity.
Son of a bitch.
Not a shot at the belt. He's got his championship opportunity contract.
Championship opportunity.
Swerve Scott puts up a fight, kind of teases us that he's going to end up pulling this thing off against all odds. But lo and behold, we've got a new North American champion in Carmelo Hayes. His contract paid off. Swerve's out the gates, and Carmelo is our new North American champion.
Well, there you go. The belt doesn't leave NXT. There was the screw job at the Community Wrestling Center, or whatever they call that place.
Looks like they drew as many people as the San Francisco episode of Raw.
So that was NXT 2.0, the first full review we've given this thing. Man, I don't want to say that we have to talk about Halloween Havoc, but man, we're going to at least have to brush over it because it is a show for NXT. So I don't think we're going to do a full cover on NXT Halloween Havoc, but we'll gloss over it for you. Maybe we'll cover it in the news section of that. Maybe we'll overrate or underrate it.
And don't forget, we've got Crown Jewel coming up. So
yeah, that's next week, next Thursday. Yeah. They got that going on. King of the Ring tournament going down at Crown Jewel. See who's going to be the king and what that won't matter for somebody in the near future. Don't
forget about the Queen of the Ring, Brian.
Yes.
That's a big one, too.
The Queen of the Ring, the inaugural, the first ever Queen of the Ring. So we shall see how that rolls out. And Jack popping in with another comment here. What we also need is Bayley as a heel with a sexy villain outfit. And the peaches are what? Oh, the peaches are there. I see what he's doing here. Wow, this guy's getting all into it here. All right,
Jack. If you were a long-time listener, sir, you know I've been advocating for Bayley to put on shorts for a while. So
yes. Eric,
keep hope alive.
Eric started a petition, and he's getting this signed and passed around. There will be shorts on Bayley soon enough. God bless, Jack. You know right. You worked your way in right with the club here. So make sure you follow us on all of our social media platforms, guys. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of the fun stuff there. Share and like and join in our comments and our content, and Join us here on the podcast. Subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast from. Rate, subscribe, review, and share the hell out of everything. And Eric, do you got anything to say before we get out of here?
Not really. Just from our resident pit bull, Stella Marie, sawing logs over in the corner here, and from myself and from you, Brian Rampa, just a big old hooty hoo. We out the gates.